like, because I feel that just from people talking to me, like even at this weekend, I told you that I probably had 30 people come up to me about the podcast. And the common theme of what they're saying to me is that either like you say things so bluntly or you keep it super simple, or it's very easy to understand what you guys are talking about.
It might not be a compliment.
Well, fucking bunch of knuckle
I'm just
draggers
kidding.
here. I know.
I'm kidding.
So, but actually, that was the main feedback that I got, and I think that our ability to do that is what makes it more relatable to some of the kids that we coach and why it's effective. But then there's like there's a cool element to it as well. Like, how do we make the teaching cool? So for me, I feel like I have an unfair advantage because I'm younger. So if I'm talking to someone who's been coaching for 35 years and they have a gray mustache and they don't look like they just finished playing, that's maybe an unfair advantage. So maybe that doesn't speak to my ability to coach as much as it speaks to the fact that I'm younger and I am more current.
You relate better to
Yeah,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So what, like,
yeah, but okay, just to counter that is you're not 12.
right. True.
You're not 12.
Right.
Right? You're 30. Pretty close to 30.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of coaches that are 30 coaching at a high level. So I would.
So what is it for you is what the question I'm getting to. So when you're, what do you think makes coaching relatable? Like from your side of it.
Speaking of blunt. Like to me, honestly, I just think people smell bullshit. I think, like, I know how to turn people on. No, I don't. I know what. Like here's the thing, right? Like if you have enthusiasm, speak loud and have energy.
Yeah.
Right. If you walk onto a stage and you're talking, and you're using all these words and terms, and you're doing it fast, there's energy there, but is there substance? True. So if you can make it look like you're, I'm not carving anybody's way of doing things though, but I just think people like simple. I think people like simple and they like honest and don't beat around the bush too much. So if you go into a seminar, like it could sound like you're doing a lot. You got the energy and you're talking and you're throwing, you got the cute little jokes at the perfect timing. And it just, my point is, if you're not authentic and you're not giving me something, like I get pissy when I have to sit in a room, like if it's a meeting or if it's anything where I know you're just taking my time and you're pissing me off now because you're just using time to have a meeting or to whatever. Like, what is it that we want? Can we do this in 10 seconds? Can we do it in a minute? Like, the shorter the better. Let's get to the point. So I think that's what I think that's what would be the best. Is that I think people they like authenticity and they like simple, and I think the more you have that, the better. And obviously for a seminar, you need quality information and stuff. So like at some point, you're gonna have like an NHL coach. How am I saying this? Hire, like if you've been coaching for a long time and you're getting, if you're Bruce Cassidy and you want to learn something, well, you don't want to have like simple, you want truth, but you want, there's got to be like some serious substance there and stuff like that. But like for most people, it's a lot of the information is not needed. I guess that's what I'm saying. And people can smell and see bullshit. It might take them a little bit longer, but they can. So I think that's the thing. Authenticity.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably it for me too. And then there's another layer of it that I was thinking of when I'm at a lot of these things. Like, I actually found this one to be much better, and maybe it's because there's a shorter time frame for people to speak. They have to be specific. So like you saw even in the coaches meeting we had this morning, like I'm fighting to get to specific points, and like you get distracted and pulled away to different elements and different things, right? And it's like, okay, but I want to talk about this. Okay, but I want to talk about this. Okay, but I want to talk about this, not all these other things that are related to this, And that's what I find is you get someone to come and speak, and let's say it's someone who wants to speak about skating, like they're a power skating coach of some sort. in their 1 hour, they try to touch on everything. And it's like, you only have an hour.
Well, you can't.
You can't, right? So by the time you finish trying to touch on everything, you haven't said anything of value, because everyone knows the basic things for the most part. If they're registering for a coaching thing, they probably are into looking up coaching stuff. So if you're going to go talk about power skating and you just do very, very, very basics, I'm not saying it's not valuable, but it's too general a lot of the times, unless I
would say it's
being hyper specific about, okay, we're going to talk about turning. We're going to talk about turning in small areas or tight turns, and start from basic and work up to complex within that hour or whatever. But if you want to talk about forward skating, backward skating, skating when guys are tired, mechanics, edges, stride extension, all these different things, and you're trying to cram it all into an hour, it ends up being not super valuable. So even from a learning perspective for me, when I go to listen to podcasts or listen to other coaches or listen to whoever, I try to find a specific topic. Like, I want to hear about a specific thing, unless there's a person that I just like to listen to in general, which I have some of those, where they could talk about the same basic stuff all the time and I just like listening to them. But if I want to learn something, I'm trying to go for the specific thing I want to learn, especially if you already have some experience. If you have some experience in coaching and training and whatever, you're not starting at zero, then I find you go to some of these things and you're just sitting there like, okay, what did I gain? Like, what did I learn from this? And this is the difference, maybe to your point, at the coach's site. Like, people are volunteering to go there. They're volunteering to sign up and pay to go there.
Like the audience.
Yeah,
like
it's not required.
Yeah,
right. It's not required. So the fact that
you're saying as opposed to if you're going Hockey Canada, USA,
right,
hockey,
where it's mandatory, mandated.
In order to coach U14, you have to do this 6-hour course, which is filled with maybe good, maybe bad, maybe a bunch of shit, but it's just, you have to go whether you like it or not, 100%. And that's what I'm saying. The private industry, if you do things in a private industry as opposed to that mandatory governing body thing, you're probably going to get a better product, because if they don't, like, here's the thing, and that's why they've grown. They're obviously very good, because if they don't do a great job, then people don't come back or they get bad reviews, and right? There's nothing stopping someone from not going again, right?
Right. So
except for the only way that they're going to come back is if it's quality.
Right.
So that only makes sense to me.
So for this, like with the coaches site thing, it was sweet. The setup was sweet. The speakers ahead were sweet. And I'm looking forward to going to the next one. So I kind of have two themes in this discussion that I want to bring in. One is kind of modernizing coaching for coaches, like how to make sure that you're modern in the game. And then the second aspect of it is relating that message now to players in a way that resonates with them, so that they can actually take your advice and make it actionable. Okay, so you talked about authenticity in coaching, and one of the points you just made was you think people can smell bullshit, and I think so too. So how do you draw the line? Like, for me, this is something that I feel like I've gotten to be pretty decent at, is understanding the audience and how to communicate the message. Because one issue that I have with a lot of coaches is I'm the no bullshit guy, but really you're just an asshole. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but just be clear.
So this is what my question is. Where do you draw the line? How do you draw the line between authentic, honest, and telling the truth versus you're actually just kind of hiding ego a little bit. You're actually kind of an asshole, and you're being blunt for no reason without any velvet on the sledgehammer, so to speak. So how do you think about that dynamic and kind of how to thread the needle without crossing over?
I think some things need to be, like, if you're teaching something that's an absolute, then you can be as blunt as you want, right? Like, you know what I mean? You could come across as an asshole or a know-it-all. It's right is right. Do you know what I mean? But when you're dealing with someone trying to learn, a student meaning a player, or you're teaching coaches to be coaches, then I think it's important, like it always comes back to this, is like, give them the reason why they're learning something, right? And why and how does it benefit them? We were talking this morning when we had our coaches meeting, and it was the discussion was, okay, obviously, basically we want to get, because we have the academy, we have the junior A team, would like everything to trickle down to resemble it to be the same, but you can't actually expect a 9 and 10-year-old team or 11 and 12-year-old team to execute hockey the exact same way as a junior A team or an NHL team or whatever. You can't do it. And there's various reasons for that. Various reasons are simply the skill level might not be there. At the junior A level, that funnel is filtered a lot of people. So you get a quality hockey player like in several different ways. So they're going to get grass more than they've been playing for a lot longer. So to have it matching exactly is not going to happen. So you can get the ideas across, but what is the fundamental most important thing? So this is where the teaching thing would come across. So if we were so adamant on making 12-year-olds play like junior A players and we need it to be right, well, that's not a good solution. That's going to be a recipe for a disaster. So we have to look at what's in the best interest of our kids, and what would that be right now? Well, if they can't, you could, to win games, you can set up and be a real asshole on if you do not do this defensive scheme and forecheck properly and plug the middle of the ice to a T, then you're not going to get ice. You can do it that way, but the development side suffers. So you might be, if you do, even if, especially if you have a team that, well, good or poor team, if you do a system to a T, you give yourself a little bit of a chance, but the development falls away. So what should come first? And that's a decision. I'm not saying I'm right, but what should come first? Developing kids or systems that you win every hockey game? And that's whatever your opinion is fine. For me to develop the program, I would say throw the basics of and that's what we kind of came up with today. Throw the basics, but you can't expect them to have the basics dialed in if they can't simply get up the ice fast enough, or if they can't make a pass up the ice, or they understand the game yet. So I would rather see kids have a lot of success of the basics of moving the puck crispy, having the work ethic to execute something. Because if you're expecting them to do a system where it's not fun, like, I don't mean not fun, but I mean where it's just all thinking and no playing almost, because they're young, they might overthink. Then if you can't get them to work, like if you want them to figure out how to work really, really hard, but if they're not having a blast doing it, then the system, if you do the systems to a T, like, and it's always thinking, then that's going to be harder to get them to work, right? So I want my kids, the basics to be okay, the fundamentals of working. Like when I have the puck, like I was giving it to them this morning in a good way. You guys have to learn how to work, because they just, like, a lot of kids don't understand that. Like I said before, they go to a lot of different skills things and stuff, and everything seems like it's supposed to be fun, and we play a 3-on-3 game because it's fun. No, yes, but no, you have to play hard. So I want that instilled first before we get into, now we're going to hone in on this neutral zone, whatever, or defensive scheme. So that's the one thing. And then the other thing was, the kids will listen. So I did last week, I don't think I told you this yet, when I did the leadership with the group, it was amazing. The thing was, is I made it, I'm not saying I'm great, that's not what I'm saying, but I do know one thing, that if I make it about me or make it about my presentation, they don't care. As soon as I personalize it to them, like, this is how it's going to benefit you, then they get interested. Well, dude, I did a lot of speaking, but they were hands up, talking, communicating. I had a couple parents text me, say, my son came home tonight. They were talking about all the stuff that they learned in your leadership class. Thank you very much. That was awesome. They can't stop talking about it. Like leadership class or whatever we call it, that's exciting. So I think that if you can get into the players or the coaches, if they understand that this will make me better, or this is what I'm here for, like you tug on the little cockles of their heart somehow, then they're engaged, right? I think they listen to it a lot more.